Hello friends, welcome to our channel. Today we are going to talk about Britain in the 1950s. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon. Let's start now. So friends, have you ever wondered what life was like in Britain's working class neighborhoods during the swinging 60s? How did families survive the post-war challenges? What were the streets really like? Were they filled with laughter, struggles, and dreams? Which shops and local pubs were the heart of the community? And how did children play when television was a luxury? Join us as we take you on a nostalgic journey back to the 1950s, where life was simpler, the community was tight-knit, and the spirit of resilience and hope was alive and well. Working-class streets in the 1950s were the backbone of Britain. These close-knit communities were filled with terraced houses, each telling a story of its own. These houses might seem small to us today, but they were home to families who were creating their own piece of happiness. The streets were a mix of ages, from brand new builds to older properties, some even dating back to the Victorian times. They were all held together by the people who lived there. The true heart and soul of the community. Life on these streets was simple. The local shops were just a stone's throw away, providing everything from fresh bread to shiny new toys. Children would roam the streets after school, playing with whatever they could find, their laughter echoing in the narrow alleys. There were no PlayStations or iPhones back then, but a child's imagination was their only limit. A bit of string could become a swing, a rope, a zip wire. A sturdy wall was a perfect climbing frame, and a simple game of hopscotch could last hours. The streets were their playground, their classroom, and their adventure land. The local pub was more than just a place to grab a pint. It was a social hub where people came to unwind, chat about their day, and feel part of something bigger. After all, it wasn't just a pub, it was their local. Here, the regulars would swap stories and jokes, forging bonds that lasted a lifetime. It was a place where you could leave your troubles at the door and be welcomed with a friendly smile and a pint of beer. The pub was a microcosm of the community, a place where everyone knew your name and your story. Streets were the lifeline of the community, connecting people, shops, and lives. The sense of belonging was strong. People looked out for one another, sharing both the good times and the bad. It was a community that thrived on togetherness, where a helping hand was never refused and a friendly face could brighten your day. It was a time when life was tough, but the spirit of camaraderie made it a little easier. But friends, it's time to say goodbye for today. We've taken a trip back in time to the 1950s and explored what life was like on a typical working-class street. We hope you enjoyed this journey through nostalgia. If you did, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Comment below which part of the story touched your heart the most. See you next time. Until then, stay curious, keep exploring, and remember, some of the best stories are the ones shared by our grandparents. Thanks for watching. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to look at a time when rationing had just ended and the streets were coming alive again with the sound of children playing inside these homes. Rationing had just ended and families were eager to rebuild their lives. Women in aprons prepared hearty meals, often with little money, but great resourcefulness. Clothes were patched and handed down, and sewing machines were essential in every household. Men returned from work in factories or local industries, tired but proud, to share stories with their children about their day. Schools were strict, but they were places of hope. Children learned not just reading and writing, but also the importance of manners and responsibility. After school, they played outside until dusk, building imaginary worlds from the simplest materials: wooden carts, cardboard forts, and homemade kites. Public spaces like parks and playgrounds were gathering points. Residents knew each other by name, and neighbors shared both joys and sorrows. This was a time when community mattered deeply and social bonds were strong, because life demanded mutual support. Take, for example, Mrs. Thompson, a widowed mother of 3. She ran a small tea shop on the corner of her street, serving steaming cups of tea and warm pastries. Her shop was more than a place to eat. It was where people gathered to discuss local news, celebrate milestones, and console each other in hard times. Or Mr. Jenkins, a factory worker who spent evenings teaching neighborhood children how to ride bicycles safely, instilling discipline and joy simultaneously. The streets themselves had stories. Brick walls were often adorned with chalk drawings made by children. Doorsteps saw generations growing up together. During winter, coal fires warmed the homes and neighbors shared firewood. When supplies ran low, summer brought long days of outdoor games, picnics, and laughter that echoed through narrow alleyways. Life here wasn't always easy. There were financial struggles. health concerns, and the constant effort to make the best of what life offered. But there was a deep sense of community, a shared history, and a strong will to move forward together. As the sun set over the horizon, it cast long shadows on the streets, giving way to the twinkling of evening stars. The day's heat slowly faded, replaced by the soft glow of gas lamps that lined the streets. Inside the homes, the aroma of home-cooked meals mingled with the sound of laughter and conversation. It was a simple life, yet it was rich with the warmth of human connection and the promise of a shared future. The end of rationing brought with it a sense of relief and opportunity. Families could now afford to buy more varied and plentiful food, easing the financial strain that had been a constant companion during the lean years. For many, it was a chance to recover some of the luxuries that had been taken away, like a small indulgence, a new dress, a book, or even a bicycle. The spirit of resourcefulness that had been born out of necessity did not disappear. People had learned to make the most of what they had and to value things for their durability and functionality. Clothing was mended, furniture was repurposed, and skills like sewing and cooking were highly valued. This era was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. It was a time when communities came together to support each other, to share resources, and to ensure that no one faced the challenges alone. It was a period of rebuilding, not just of material possessions, but also of social bonds and a sense of collective identity. As the years passed, this time would become a cherished memory, a reminder of a simpler way of life, a strong sense of community, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. If you enjoyed this glimpse into the past, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you'd like to continue exploring, click here to watch another captivating video. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video. Britain in the 1950s was a time of post-war recovery, rationing, and social change. For the working class, life was tough, yet their strength, unity, and hope never wavered. We've seen how they survived. Now let's see how they thrived, how they laughed, cried, loved, and lived through the challenges of daily life. Let's get into it. Part 2 of our series, UK, Real Life on Coronation Street, Working Class Neighborhoods of the 1950s. Festivals and celebrations amidst the rationing and austerity. The working class communities found joy in festivals and celebrations. Local events were the centerpiece of social life, offering a respite from daily struggles and a chance to bond over shared experiences. Bank holidays and royal landmarks were occasions for street parties, while religious festivals added a layer of community spirit. The rhythm of community events continued through summer feasts, bonfire night celebrations, and Christmas markets. These festivals weren't just about merriment. They were about coming together. Women would bake for the village feasts. Men would organize sports competitions, and children would rehearse for nativity plays. It was a collective effort that strengthened bonds and created lasting memories. Holidays and festivals, a celebration of culture during the 1950s. Britain was still recovering from the austerity of World War II. But even in the midst of rationing and economic hardship, the working class communities managed to find joy and celebrate life through local festivals and holidays. Religious festivals such as Easter, Christmas, and Ramadan were observed with traditional foods and family gatherings. The Christian community celebrated Christmas with carols, nativity plays, and church services, while Muslims marked Ramadan with prayers and festive meals at Maghrib time. Other significant holidays included Easter, which was celebrated with Easter egg hunts and bonfires, and May Day, which was observed with traditional dances and maypole celebrations. Royal landmarks such as the Queen's coronation in 1953 were occasions for street parties and community gatherings. These festivals and holidays were not just about religious or royal celebrations. They were an integral part of the social fabric of the working class communities. They provided a sense of continuity and tradition in a rapidly changing world. They also offered an opportunity for people to come together, build relationships, and strengthen bonds within their communities. Whether it was attending a church service, participating in a maypole dance, or simply enjoying a street party, these festivals and holidays were an essential part of life on Coronation Street. Family dynamics within working class families in the 1950s. There was a clear division of roles based on gender. Men were generally seen as the breadwinners, responsible for providing for their family financially. They worked long hours in factories, mines, or construction sites and were expected to bring home the bacon. Women, on the other hand, were primarily responsible for domestic duties. They took care of the household, cooked meals, cleaned the house, and raised the children. It was expected that women would prioritize their family over any other commitments, and that they would be available to support their husbands and children at all times. Children in working-class families were expected to contribute to the household from a young age. They were responsible for chores such as looking after younger siblings, helping with housework and tending to small gardens. As boys got older, they might take on more responsibilities such as delivering newspapers or doing odd jobs for extra money. Girls were often expected to focus on domestic skills, learning how to cook and clean from their mothers. Discipline was a key aspect of family life, and children were expected to be well-behaved and respectful towards their parents and elders. Corporal punishment, such as a smack with a wooden spoon, was commonly used as a form of discipline. Overall, the family structure of the working class in the 1950s was hierarchical and traditional. There was a clear division of roles based on gender and age, and discipline was an important aspect of family life. However, these families were also characterized by strong bonds of love and loyalty. Parents were devoted to their children and were willing to make sacrifices to ensure their well-being, and children were expected to show respect and obedience to their parents in return. Local heroes among the working class in the 1950s. There was a deep sense of community and respect among neighbors, which made it easier for them to rely on each other for help and support. In this close-knit environment, certain individuals often emerged as local heroes, though they might not have seen themselves in that light. Shopkeepers were often respected members of the community, not only because they provided essential goods and services, but also because they were often generous and trustworthy. For example, the local grocer might give credit to a family who was short on cash, knowing that they would pay back as soon as they could. Similarly, the local butcher might throw in an extra sausage or two for a family with hungry children, without expecting anything in return. Teachers were also highly respected in these communities. They were seen as role models and mentors who not only taught academic subjects, but also instilled values and discipline in their students. Many working-class families had limited access to books and educational resources at home, so teachers played a vital role in opening up new worlds to their students through books and knowledge. In addition to material support, emotional support was also crucial in these communities. Neighbors and shopkeepers were often the first to offer a listening ear or a helping hand to those in need. In a time when mental health issues were stigmatized and underreported, this kind of emotional support was invaluable. Overall, the concept of a local hero was somewhat different in the working-class communities of the 1950s. Rather than larger-than-life figures, heroism was found in the everyday acts of kindness, generosity, and support that bound these communities together. Challenges faced by working-class children. While working-class children in the 1950s enjoyed a sense of community and support, they also faced numerous challenges growing up in poverty. One of the most significant issues was access to basic necessities. Many working-class families struggled to afford food, clothing, and shelter, which meant that children often went without the essentials. This could lead to malnutrition, poor health, and a lack of educational opportunities. Working-class children were often denied the same quality of education as their middle-class peers. Schools in poorer areas were often overcrowded and underfunded, and teachers were not always well-trained or adequately compensated. Furthermore, children were expected to contribute to the household income at a young age, which meant that many had to leave school early to take on low-paying jobs. Another challenge faced by working-class children was the lack of access to health care. Many families could not afford doctor's visits or the cost of necessary medical treatments, which resulted in a higher mortality rate among working-class children compared to their middle-class counterparts. Additionally, working-class children were often exposed to dangerous working conditions if they did take on jobs at a young age. They might work in factories or mines alongside adults, putting their safety and well-being at risk. Finally, working-class children were subject to social stigma and discrimination. They were often seen as less valuable than middle-class children and were stereotyped as being lazy, unintelligent, or immoral. This discrimination limited their opportunities and reinforced the cycle of poverty. Despite these challenges, many working-class children were resilient and determined to improve their lives. They worked hard in school, sought out mentors and role models, and dreamed of a better future for themselves and their families. Their stories are a testament to the strength and perseverance of the human spirit. In the face of adversity, life on Coronation Street in the 1950s was not easy, but the working-class community was rich with shared humanity, resilience, and simple joys that united them. From family gatherings to community events, they supported each other through thick and thin. Now it's your turn to share your thoughts. What working-class traditions from the 1950s do you remember or cherish? Have you ever lived in a close-knit community like Coronation Street? Share your stories in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more engaging videos. Until next time, stay curious, keep exploring, and remember the power of community and resilience. Thanks for watching. Bye. Life in the 1950s was a unique blend of tradition and change, particularly in the realm of family and community. It was a time when strong community bonds were formed around local shops, markets, and pubs. These places weren't just businesses. They were the heart of neighborhood life. Families didn't just shop there. They built relationships. Shopkeepers knew their regular customers by name and often became part of the community. Children developed a sense of responsibility early on, accompanying their parents on shopping trips and even helping out with household finances. They learned the value of money by collecting coins for household purchases or helping out at family-run businesses. Beyond shopping, the corner pub was a social hub where men gathered to unwind after work. These pubs weren't just for drinking. They were community forums where men discussed local sports, news, and issues over a pint. They were also a source of relaxation and camaraderie, offering a break from the pressures of daily life. Women typically socialized in different settings, often in more intimate, domestic environments like their own homes or local community centers. They hosted dinner parties, sewing circles and knitting groups, creating a strong sense of community and mutual support. These gatherings were not only about socializing, but also about sharing skills, resources, and news within the community. Festivals and community events were a significant part of life in the 1950s. Village fairs, horse shows, and, of course, major royal landmarks like Queen Elizabeth's coronation were not just celebrations. They were integral to the social fabric of the community. These events provided a sense of continuity, tradition, and identity. They offered a break from the routine, bringing people together through shared joy and participation. Children were often at the center of these festivities, participating in races, maypole dances, and talent shows. Their innocence and energy added to the gaiety of the event, while adults joined in with enthusiasm, forming and strengthening bonds over shared experiences. But it wasn't all about the big events. Everyday life was rich with interactions that built community. People took pride in their neighborhoods, organizing street parties for royal landmarks like Queen Elizabeth's coronation, or major sporting events. These shared experiences, no matter how simple, were a source of unity and pride for the community. They fostered a sense of belonging and loyalty, reinforcing the importance of being part of that particular neighborhood. In this era, real individuals made up the community, each with their own story to tell. There was young Tommy Harris, a 10-year-old who helped his mother deliver groceries to neighbors while attending school. His sense of responsibility and kindness made him a beloved figure in his street. Then there was Miss Parker, the school teacher who, despite minimal pay, stayed after classes to tutor struggling students. Her dedication and belief in her pupils made a lasting impact on their lives. These individuals, with their everyday acts of kindness, courage, and perseverance, were the backbone of the community. Their stories, though simple, were powerful in their portrayal of human resilience and the strength of community. Despite the hardships, life in the 1950s was also characterized by hope, resilience, and a strong sense of community. Families supported each other, sharing resources, providing emotional support, and ensuring that no one faced adversity alone. The challenges of the time, whether health issues, poverty, or lack of affordable housing, were tackled with a combination of resourcefulness, determination, and an unwavering belief in the power of community. In the close-knit neighborhoods of the 1950s, life was tough, but it was shared, making it a little easier to bear. It was a time when the strength of community was the cornerstone of resilience, where neighbors were not just people you lived next to, but a support system, a friendship circle, and a shared resource. It was a time when the challenges were great, but so was the spirit of camaraderie, support, and hope. It was a time when life was hard, but no one faced it alone, and that was the essence of community life in the 1950s. This is of our series exploring the authentic daily life of working people in the UK during the 1950s. Based on extensive research, including interviews with people who lived it, we bring you a realistic and moving portrayal of everyday life. If you haven't already, be sure to watch part 1 and part 2. Let's dive in. Continuing our journey through the heart of 1950s Britain, we now turn our attention to the local industries, entertainment, transport, and the changing cultural landscape that painted the everyday life of the working class. As we navigate through these facets of life, we'll discover how they played a crucial role in shaping the identity of these communities and how they continue to resonate in our collective memory. After a hearty breakfast, the men of the house would head out to their workplaces, their steps echoing the rhythm of the industrial heartland that powered Britain. Women often started their day with household chores, making sure everything was shipshape before the children left for school. For many, this might also include a bit of sewing or mending, ensuring everyone was clothed in their best and brightest. Some women also found part-time work in local shops, their voices mingling with the cash register tunes as they served their customers. The corner shop was a social hub, its shelves stocked with essentials and gossip. The butcher with his cleaver, the baker with his loaves still warm from the oven, and the grocer with tea, sugar, and everything in between. These were the cornerstones of the community, their counters doubling as information desks, their wares sometimes stretching beyond the price tag. As the morning sun climbed higher, the air filled with the melodies of street vendors. The ice cream man with his jingle, the fruit and vegetable vendor with his calls of buy one, and the men selling newspapers, their voices carrying the latest headlines to eager ears. These sounds became the soundtrack of the day, a lively backdrop to the everyday drama of the streets. When the school bell rang, it was a symphony of freedom. Children flooded the streets, their laughter echoing through the narrow lanes and around the terrace houses. Games of hopscotch and marbles, football in the park and hide and seek among the bomb sites were their daily adventures, their imaginations turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. As the day wore on, the pubs became the watering holes for the men after a hard morning's work. Here they unwound over a pint, sharing stories, solving the world's problems, and swapping banter. For some, the pub was a sanctuary, a place to shed the weight of the day and immerse themselves in camaraderie in the evenings. The streets came alive with music and light. Families gathered outside their homes, sharing meals, stories, and the simple joy of each other's company. As darkness fell, the air grew cooler, prompting cozy nights in. Board games, card games, and word games filled the rooms, their laughter echoing into the night. For many, it was a time for reflection, for sharing, and for creating memories that would last a lifetime. The advent of television brought a new form of shared experience. Families would gather around the flickering screen, mesmerized by the moving images and the nightly news. It was a window to the world, bringing events and personalities directly into their living rooms. The rhythm of the streets was a dance of resilience, love, and shared experiences. It was a testament to the human spirit, where every challenge was met with grit and every moment was savored. It was life on the coronation streets of Britain, where the working class not just survived, but thrived. We hope you enjoyed this glimpse into the heart of 1950s Britain. We've journeyed through the essence of a bygone era, discovering the strength, unity, and spirit of the working class communities. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to join our growing family. We've got more captivating historical tales waiting just around the corner for you. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay curious, keep asking questions, and remember, history is more than just dates and facts. It's a tapestry of lives lived, lessons learned, and stories waiting to be told. Keep being awesome. See you soon. In the post-war era, the streets became the center of daily life for many working-class communities. In the evenings, after the dinner dishes were cleared away, the streets would come alive. Walking was also common. Streets were often filled with neighbors strolling together after dinner, exchanging news and gossip and enjoying the evening air. These simple movements strengthened community bonds and allowed stories to be shared organically. Children playing hopscotch or football with makeshift balls developed their motor skills, while forging friendships that would last a lifetime. The absence of organized youth clubs meant that the streets became a natural gathering place for kids. They played freely until the light faded, creating a sense of shared experience that united them in their imaginations. For adults, the streets were a place to unwind, chat with friends, and keep an eye on the neighborhood. Men might discuss football scores or politics, while women exchanged recipes and compared notes on everything from gardening to child rearing. The street corner often became a hub of local news and information. As the sun set, the streets transformed into a stage for socializing. Evening was the time for families to step out again, this time to find entertainment. Television was emerging, but still a rarity in working-class homes. Instead, radio programs, cinema visits, and the occasional traveling fair provided a welcome distraction. from the daily routine. Many families would gather around the wireless to hear the latest news, music, and even live dramas. This created a sense of shared experience across households, bringing people together through the magic of wireless signals. When the television did arrive in some homes, it was often viewed as a community. Neighbors would gather to watch shows, sharing a single screen that brought the outside world into their living rooms. Going to the pictures was a regular treat for many working-class families. Cinemas offered an escape from the everyday, showing both Hollywood blockbusters and British films that were relatable to their audiences. It was not unusual for neighbors to sit together in the same row, whispering and laughing at the familiar jokes after the film. They would discuss the movie as they made their way home, their steps echoing the beats of the film's soundtrack. Music and dance were central to social life, and the local community hall was usually the venue for dances every weekend. Here, teenagers and adults alike would gather to enjoy jitterbug, swing, and the emerging sounds of early rock and roll. These dances were more than just a chance to let loose. They were a microcosm of the community itself. Young people danced cheek to cheek, mirroring the closeness of the neighbors who stood and watched them, exchanging smiles and nods. For the children, these dances were a source of fascination and imitation. They would often try to copy the steps they saw, learning not just rhythm and coordination, but also the etiquette of social interaction. The 1950s were also a time of subtle social transformation. Post-war recovery and the arrival of new consumer goods slowly changed lifestyle and aspiration. The dream of a modern kitchen, electric appliances, and better clothes for the family took root. These desires were not just about material wealth, but about a better life. Young people began imagining lives beyond the streets they grew up on, inspired by the big screen. Romantic notions of service in far-off lands, or the stories brought back by soldiers returning from war or immigrants who had moved to distant cities. However, despite these changes, the heart of the working-class community remained rooted in its traditions. The streets were a constant, a physical manifestation of their shared history and identity. Neighbors watched over each other's children, celebrating their successes as if they were their own. They gathered together at wakes and funerals, offering solace and support in times of sorrow. Shared meals, celebrations, and acts of kindness wove a social fabric that was as strong and enduring as the houses that lined their streets. For those who lived it, the close-knit community of the working class in the post-war era was more than just a way of life. It was a source of strength, solidarity, and belonging. In its shared laughter and struggles, in the familiar faces and helping hands, they found the richness that truly mattered. And we end our tour today with two people living their lives in Britain in the 1950s. The first is Tommy Harris. Now, Tommy was a young boy when we last met him. His father owned the local sweet factory, but after suffering a serious injury, he could no longer work, and so it fell upon Tommy to take over the family business. Here we see Tommy, now a young man, helping out his dad in the factory while also tutoring some of the younger children in the neighborhood. Now, Tommy's story is one of many that reflect the spirit of 1950s working-class Britain. It was a time when families relied on the support of their communities, often pooling their resources to help each other out in times of need. It was a time when neighbors looked out for one another, offering a helping hand or a friendly face to brighten someone's day. And it was a time when the strong sense of community was the bedrock of everyday life. Our next person brings us to the town of Ambleside. Here we meet Mrs. Thompson, a spry woman in her late 60s who has run the local tea shop for over 20 years. She's a fixture in the community, known for her warm smile and her ability to make anyone feel welcome. Her shop is a hub of activity, not just for tea and cake, but for gossip and local news. Here, Mrs. Thompson is catching up with a regular customer, sharing the latest news about the new furniture industry that has come into town and the upcoming jazz festival at the community center. Mrs. Thompson's story is another example of the resilience and resourcefulness of the British people in the 1950s. It was a time when people had to be adaptable and quick-witted to succeed, and Mrs. Thompson's dedication to her business and her community is a testament to the strength of the human spirit. Her story also reflects the importance of community in 1950s Britain. People relied on their networks of friends and neighbors to help them through tough times and to celebrate the good times. And Mrs. Thompson's shop is the perfect microcosm of this way of life. As we walk down the streets of Britain's Coronation Street neighborhoods, we see more than just bricks and mortar. We see children laughing and playing on the cobbled lanes, mothers preparing hearty meals for their families, fathers returning home after a long day's work, sharing stories with their sons and daughters, and neighbors helping one another out with a wave and a smile. We see resilience, resourcefulness, and the beauty of a tightly-knit community where every individual mattered. It was a time when life was hard, but people found joy in the simple things. When the future was uncertain, but people held on to hope. And it was a time when the spirit of community was alive and well in Britain as working-class neighborhoods. So here's to the people of 1950s Britain, and to the memory of a time when communities were strong, when neighbors helped one another, and when life was hard, but the human spirit was even stronger. Thank you for joining me on this journey through time. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel and joining me on my next adventure. Until then, goodbye. In the heart of 1950s Britain, amidst the austerity and the rationing, there existed a vibrant community that thrived not just in spite of the scarcity, but because of it. They lived on streets like Coronation Street, a name synonymous with their indomitable spirit. Their world was one of limited choices, but their lives were rich in human connection, laughter, and shared memories. The women of the neighborhood were the backbone. They scrubbed their small front lawns, hung their washing on makeshift lines, and drew their curtains at night, not out of fear or sadness, but as part of a shared ritual. They were a community bound together by the simple acts of daily living, their laughter echoing through the clothes, their gossip carried on the wind. They looked out for one another, offering a helping hand, a listening ear, and a word of comfort. Their strength lay not just in their individual resilience, but in the collective spirit that defined their street. Then came the men, figures of stoic determination who returned home after long days at the factory, their faces etched with the grime of their labor. They spoke little of their hardships, for their dignity lay in their quiet perseverance. They, too, were part of a lineage of strong, silent men who had endured the Great War and the post-war hardships. Their strength a testament to the enduring spirit of humanity within those terraced houses. Life unfolded around kitchen tables, a microcosm of the nation's struggles and triumphs. The wireless crackled with news of the day, providing a soundtrack to their lives. Outside, children played on the cobbled streets, their laughter echoing between the rows of houses. They created their own games, their own adventures from the scraps of an era defined by making do. For these children, the street was their playground and their world. They explored its nooks and crannies, discovering magic in the mundane. Their games were a reflection of their times, a blend of imagination and necessity, a testament to the boundless spirit of youth. As the sun set over Coronation Street, the air grew thick with the aroma of supper. The sounds of frying pans and kettles filled the air, a symphony of domesticity. Inside the homes, families gathered, not just for a meal, but for a moment of unity, sharing stories and laughter around the table. These were ordinary people living extraordinary lives, their strength born out of love, their laughter echoing through the clothes. Their days were filled with the rhythm of the community, the camaraderie of neighbors, the warmth of shared meals, and the joy of simple pleasures. They celebrated life in all its bittersweet moments, their resilience a testament to the strength of the human spirit. But it wasn't just about survival. It was about thriving in the face of adversity, finding joy in the smallest of things, creating beauty out of necessity. The women were upon not just for warmth, but for the pleasure of creating something beautiful. The children played not just to pass the time, but to explore a world that was theirs for the taking. And in the evenings, when the work was done and the children were tucked in bed, the adults gathered in the close. They sang songs, they told stories, they danced. They found solace in each other's company, drawing strength from the collective spirit that bound them together. These were the people of Coronation Street. There lives a tapestry woven with threads of struggle and joy, hardship and hope. They were ordinary people living through extraordinary times. There lives a testament to the resilience, the resourcefulness, and the sheer tenacity of the human spirit. As we take a final look down the close, we are struck by the realization that it is not the absence of hardship that makes life rich, but the way we choose to live in spite of it. The people of Coronation Street found joy in the simplest of things, laughter, community, and the warmth of human connection. They taught us that life is not just about surviving, it's about thriving. That is in the sharing of our stories, our struggles, and our triumphs that we find the strength to keep going. Thank you for joining us on this journey through time. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment which part of the story touched your heart most. Share this story with friends and family, and keep the memories of Britain's vibrant neighborhoods alive.